Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Thursday, the 29th of May. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning for the first time in a bit of a long time. Jonny McFarlane joins us. How's it going, Jonny?
Yes, good, Derek. I've been away in the sun enjoying Lanzarote, so here I am back and ready and raring to go. You may notice I sound a little bit blocked up. Yep, I spent a week in the sun and I've come back with a cold. Mental. But there you go.
Dear. How was Lanzarote?
Yeah, it was good, mate. It was good. You know, when you've got a 3-year-old running about, you tend to spend most of your time stuck by the pool, and let's be honest, that's no hardship, is it? So a few beers were had, enjoyed some of the football that was on, and refreshed and ready to go, mate.
Good stuff. Right, there's plenty to discuss. Plenty that you've missed since you've been away. I think when you initially flew out, the Ancelotti link started to emerge. So before we get stuck right into that, because there's plenty to get our teeth stuck into, a quick word for our podcast sponsors. As ever, S1 Jobs. If you're looking to hand in your transfer request, folks, head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. There are thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas. You'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Right, let's get to it. Well, great piece on the website late last night. You may have seen, folks, from Chris. Dave King has been speaking about the imminent takeover and the managerial search. He's certainly nailing his colours to the mast. He wants Steven Gerrard to return to the helm. But I'll get your take, first of all, on where we are at this moment in time, Jonny. Lot of noise. I think the supporters just want an announcement one way or another now. It's been dragging on a fair bit, shall we say. But Davide Ancelotti was a name that emerged about a couple of weeks ago, maybe just over that. He's looking to become his own boss and leave his father. He's been his understudy too for a good number of years now. Very keen on the role as well. Wants to become the Rangers head coach. What's your feeling on that? And some of the other names that have been mooted as well, the likes of Gerrard, Russell Martin, of course, is a name that doesn't seem to be going away. Also, a lot to pack in, but where do you stand on it all?
God, you've asked me a big question there, Derek. I'll try and make this shorter than normal. Not a 10-minute eulogy.
No.
Monologue, sorry, not eulogy, that's the wrong word. So, first of all, I would say that when I first heard the Ancelotti link, I wasn't impressed with it. I didn't think it made a lot of sense. I'm 43. The successful Rangers managers that I've seen over the time that I've been alive have often been kind of guys that understand Scottish football, that know it, that big figures, and you're looking at Ancelotti and you're thinking, well, he's never managed a team. You think about it a little bit more, you look at the other names that are in the fray, you get a little bit of time to digest it, you speak to people, and in my case, I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit on it. The first thing I would say, Derek, that you can't ignore is it's a massive gamble if it's going to be Ancelotti. It's a massive gamble. Appointing any manager to a club the size of Rangers with no experience is always going to attract criticism, and it's always going to be a roll of the dice. But this is a club with very specific, I think, demands, and we've seen in the past, time and time again, managers come in with no experience. Walter Smith, Graham Souness, Steven Gerrard, if they're the right type of character and succeed. What I would say about Ancelotti is that you're talking about a guy that has been at the very, very apex of the game for a long time now. You look at his time at Bayern Munich, you look at his time at Real Madrid, I think he was involved in Napoli as well. You'll be able to tell me any other clubs that I've missed out there, Derek. I'm sure there is. Everton. This is a guy that knows what good looks like. I talked to a source of mine who's worked at the very top level of European football yesterday, spent about half an hour on the phone talking about Ancelotti, and this source didn't know Ancelotti. But what he talked about was when you have someone who knows what the top looks like, they are able to come in and affect the culture in a way that I think it's harder to do for someone like, say, for example, Philippe Clement. Now, he'd worked at a good level in Belgian football. He'd won leagues with 2 different clubs. He'd gone to Monaco, who I think have really, really good facilities and are a really good club. But Philippe Clement had not worked at the top, and he hadn't been at the top as a player. The difference is with Ancelotti is he's going to come into Rangers and look at the standards, facilities, the medical, remember he's got a sports science degree, the training grounds, the conditions for the players around Ibrox, and he's going to know whether or not it's good enough to be top. Now, one of the big things that Steven Gerrard did when he came in was he looked at all that and he changed it all because he said it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I think Ancelotti will bring that to the club, and that's what my source said, that this is a guy that's really widely respected in the football world. Someone like Kevin Thelwell, who knows the English game inside out. I don't think he was at Everton when Ancelotti was there. I think he came shortly afterwards. But he will have known of Ancelotti's relationships around Everton because there wasn't a big gap. He'll have known of his reputation. And I think Rangers here are looking for something completely different, something more modern, moving away from the manager role and moving into a head coach role that is backed up by a proper, robust system in behind that coach. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see how that works out. If you're asking me whether or not I'm confident that that'll work, I'll be honest, Derek. One of the things about me is I'm always honest. People sometimes get wound up by that. I don't know. I don't think you can say that. We've had so many examples in the past of managers coming in who don't have experience of Scottish football and they fall flat on their face. Paul Le Guen, Pedro Caixinha. But at the same time, there's an excitement about this. There's a glamour. There's an understanding that he's worked at the very top level and it's someone with a real burgeoning reputation in the game. And I think he has a lot of potential. It's going to be fascinating to see how it pans out. And I think everyone will be excited if Ancelotti is announced. And I certainly think that's probably now what we would expect. I think anyone else now would be a surprise. Not ruling them out. But I think it would be an exciting new dawn for Rangers that I think the fans will look at and say, yeah, I like the look of this overall, while being aware that it's not an open goal. But do you know what, Derek? And this is important to add. None of these are open goals. There's no obvious appointment. If you look at the other names that are being discussed, Russell Martin, I don't really understand that one on a personal or footballing level. I think Russell Martin doesn't have a massive footballing CV in terms of what he's done to look at and say, well, he's clearly the guy for Rangers. There's no doubt he's highly thought of as a coach. There's no doubt he put on teams that were able to play attractive football in a tough league like the English Championship. But he's also really been custard pie in the Premier League when he got up there. I think Southampton under him were the worst side in the history of the Premier League. And he had a really, really bad spell as a Rangers player that was not fondly looked at. So I think he'd be coming in on the back foot. I don't doubt that down the line, Russell Martin's going to be a very good manager based on what I've heard about him. But I don't think that one really is better than Ancelotti, is any less of a risk than Ancelotti. So for me, I would take Ancelotti over Martin. Yeah. And then you look at Steven Gerrard. Now, clearly, that's the one that you would say from an experiential point of view. He's got that. He understands Scottish football. He knows what it takes. He's not going to be surprised going to the plastic pitches. He's not going to be shocked when he goes to Tynecastle and the stands are on top of you and it's a complete bear pit and Derek McInnes is shelling balls in and the set pieces are absolutely murder. None of that is going to shock Steven Gerrard. But I look at Steven Gerrard now and think, it's not been that long since he left. He won't be able to bring in Michael Beale for all the reasons that we're aware of. Everyone said, every single player that I've ever spoken to from that era said that Gerrard and the Gerrard team was a package and Beale was so important in terms of the coaching. I wonder how Gerrard does without Beale. That's a big unknown. But here's the biggest thing for me for Gerrard. When Gerrard came in 2018, Derek, 2018, I think, 2018?
Yes.
He was absolutely motivated to extreme levels. He knew where he wanted to go, and that was Liverpool. Rangers had to be a success. It couldn't not be a success. He had to stop that Celtic juggernaut. If he didn't stop them, the Liverpool dream was dead. And you could see that, Derek. It was screaming out of him. Every pore of him was eye of the tiger. We have to win. We have to get better. It was so obvious. Now I look at Gerrard now, a guy that's been on record saying he wants to get to Liverpool. It's obvious he would want to go back to Liverpool. No one would dispute or argue with that. That's his club. But I don't think he's going to go to Liverpool, and I think he knows he's not going to go to Liverpool now. It's dead. The dream's dead. So do you get the same eye of the tiger Stevie Gerrard? Do you get the same package without Michael Beale in the background doing the coaching? Now, you could say you get another coach. Well, he brought in another coach at Aston Villa, and it all went spectacularly wrong. Stevie G, and people forget this, he was actually doing okay at Aston Villa for that first season. It wasn't a disaster when he went in Aston Villa. It started to go wrong, really badly wrong, after Beale left. And I'm just not sure, Derek, now's the right time. Steven Gerrard inevitably will come back to Rangers at some point. I've no doubt about that. But this time, right now,
a fan maybe.
For me, of these options, I'm going to say that Ancelotti is the one that I find the most attractive. While I'm also aware there'll be many people in the comments saying, well, he's got no experience, in the same way that Barry Ferguson had no experience, and you said Barry Ferguson should be given the job on the back of his lack of experience. And I understand that, but there's always nuance in these arguments. You could have someone that was a manager of Aberdeen, very successfully, like Derek McInnes, and you could say, well, you know, what he's done at Aberdeen, what he did at Kilmarnock, he should be in the conversation for the Rangers manager. I would argue that what Ancelotti's done as a coach in terms of his experience at all these big clubs, especially at Real Madrid, is that worse than being an Aberdeen manager in terms of preparing you to deal with the intense environment of Rangers? Or are you better being in the intense environment of Real Madrid where you're not the main man? It's a big question, but there's loads and loads to discuss. But for me, Derek, I'm sticking my neck on the chopping block. I know you'll be surprised because we had this group chat when the name first came on. But all the names that are mentioned, I think Ancelotti is the most exciting. It could probably go more spectacularly wrong. But do you know what? This is an entertainment business, isn't it? Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Scott Hammond says, thanks for the short answer.
Is that 10 minutes?
We're there or thereabouts, but we got there.
There's so much to get through. Come on, give me a break.
There was so much to get to. Just on the issue of when you're in Lanzarote again, Johnny Kenny says, next time you're in Lanzarote, pop in and see us in Bluebells, Porto del Carmen. Did you notice Bluebells when you're over there?
I did. You know what? I did. I read about it and I looked at how far away. I was in Playa Blanca. And it was, I think it was something like 40 minutes drive. So I didn't have a car. I thought about getting a taxi because I went to watch the Hibs game at a local pub, and it was just easier to just stay where I was. But it did look like a fantastic bar.
Yeah, good stuff. I'll make a note of that, Kenny, next time. Well, I've not been over. The last time that was my first foreign holiday back 1995. So it's about time I returned there. So I'll make a note of that if I'm ever in that neck of the woods. Interestingly, just on Ancelotti then, of course, it seems to be the main man, the front runner for this gig. Interestingly, the Spanish journalist Guillem Balague got involved yesterday. Bit of a strange news article on the BBC where he confirmed what we already know, that he's held talks with Rangers, but that he's looking for Rangers to make their mind up pretty sharpish. He also, with the line, said Real players have heard about Ancelotti's potential destination, including 39-year-old midfielder Luka Modric, who is leaving the Spanish Giants this summer, but is yet to decide on his next move. So that line there sparked a bit of a frenzy on social media about the prospect of Luka Modric potentially coming to Ibrox. Balague then had to backtrack and tweeted later on, Modric is not going to Rangers, but you knew that, right? So a bit strange from this individual, you've got to say, Johnny, but certainly sparked a lot of noise yesterday on social media. Luka Modric will be 40 in September. He is looking for a new club, I'd imagine. I don't know if he's going to hang up his boots. Wouldn't be opposed to it right enough, but I wouldn't be putting all my eggs in one basket, expecting him to be pitching up at Ibrox.
No, it was a really strange article. Guillem Balague is a top journalist, Eric. There's no doubt about it. Highly respected. But just the way the article was written, it was sort of teasing in a tabloidy style way. And then he came out and said, "Oh, you all know that Modric isn't going to come to Rangers." Yeah, we thought it seemed like a bit of a long shot, but you did write it in a way that he was asked about it and he didn't give a response. It was deliberately tantalising. So you got your response, and now you're sort of claiming that you didn't intend to drive that. I don't know. It was just odd, the whole thing. I don't think Luka Modric is going to be coming to Rangers. If he did, it would be fantastic. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's, I think, still a very, very good player. Yes, he's getting on a little bit. His game's never been about running about, has it, Luka Modric? No. He's not got the engine he once did, but wonderful, wonderful player and ability to sort of control a game in terms of his passing and ability to get a stunning goal as well. So, listen, I mean, if you were able to bring in a huge name like that, if it is Ancelotti, then you would have to say it would be very, very exciting. But I think we can file that one under
unlikely
journalism.
Not yet. Yeah. And then that leads us on, of course, to Chris's piece on the website that emails last night. Dave King has been speaking about the whole takeover and his thoughts on the managerial search. He's hoping that Steven Gerrard returns. He says, I'd be very surprised if they haven't spoken to him because Steven is the obvious choice. I think I know him well enough to fairly accurately state it would be unfinished business for him. Steven left at the time he didn't want to leave. That's a fact. And the team was still top of the league at the time he left. He wanted to defend that title. I think he would have defended the title had he stayed. So from Steven's personal point of view and where he is at the moment, I think he'd love nothing more than to come back to the club and take on the challenge of restoring the club. And it's not just about one title, because the project that we hope we're starting now is a project to make Rangers a dominant #1 team in Scotland. It's not about winning another league title. It's about really putting Rangers back at the top. This is a project. It's not a one-off. And I think Steven would be perfect for that. So, and he also said that he's by far the least risky candidate. Dave King is very much entitled to his opinion, Jonny. I'm not too sure how much sway that will have with the guys making the decision. But at this point about Gerrard coming back, unfinished business, I agree with you, incidentally. And I've said this on shows before. Does he have the same drive and hunger that he had in 2018? He's had 2 unsuccessful stints at clubs. I'd be intrigued to see where he ends up. It'll be interesting to see if he's quizzed on his managerial future when he appears on TNT's coverage of the Champions League on Saturday evening as well. He's going to be one of the pundits on there. I get Dave King's thoughts on this and many others. Let's be honest, a lot of Rangers fans would like Steven Gerrard to return. I'm not so sure that would be the right move. And it's never sort of, even when his name was first mooted, I think even when Clement was dismissed, there was talk of Gerrard returning. I've never really felt that thing that you go, yeah, that's exactly the solution here.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet. It's not been enough water under the bridge. As I've said, I do think he'll end up being Rangers manager once again one day. But I think maybe now there's these other options that kind of work better. I understand where Dave King's coming from. If you're looking at those 3 candidates and you're talking about the least surprise, the least opportunity for there to be a disaster, then yeah, Steven Gerrard coming in, you know that you're never going to be struggling for second with Steven Gerrard. You know, the way he's going to set that team up is they're going to be at the very, very least close to Celtic. We know that there's going to be an understanding of the league and an understanding of what's needed, and Rangers will be a robust, well-organised side under Gerrard. We know that.
Yeah.
So that's not surprising that Dave King thinks that. Dave King's got a great relationship with Steven Gerrard. One of the things that I think is becoming more and more prevalent just about Gerrard in general, and Dave King, to be fair to him, has been consistent on this. I've heard more and more chatter about Gerrard leaving and why he left and problems that were going on behind the scenes that maybe weren't fully realised at the time. I think there was a kind of understanding that Gerrard left because he wanted to go to the Premier League and he wanted to make that hop and a jump to Liverpool. And actually, I've now heard from multiple sources, Derek, over the last couple of years that more and more a clear schism between Steven Gerrard and Douglas Park has kind of been talked about by different sources, or certainly, if not Douglas Park, then some of the people on the board at the time. And there's a sense that Gerrard wanted money to take that team to the next level. Celtic were bringing Ange in and going to spend big money. We know what obviously happened there. Gerrard left with a short amount into the season, and Gio took over. But I don't think Rangers followed his advice of kind of making hay while the sun was shining, fixing the roof. I think he said while the sun was shining. And my information was that there was 3 players that he wanted, and Rangers weren't able to bring any of them in. Each would have involved, I think, a fairly significant transfer fee, but the club didn't feel it was in a position to do that. And I understand why the club didn't do that, Derek, because COVID had happened. There was huge problems in terms of the amount of money coming into the club that wasn't there. Steven Gerrard himself wasn't a guy who was keen on selling players to reinvest, which I think was a big mistake. And it's easy for Gerrard to be like, just give, but there has to be also a take from the board to be able to reinvest, and I don't think he was open to that. You look at players like Morelos and Kent, I think absolutely had to be sold at the time. Glenn Kamara could have been sold sooner. You need to evolve at a club like Rangers in the transfer market. This new ownership, I think, understands that. But I think that was a constant button of the heads towards the end of the Gerrard era. And I think there was more of a schism there than we realised at the time. And Dave King calling it unfinished business, I think it's fair to say King and Gerrard, it's no secret that they're close. How close they remain, I don't know, but we're certainly close for a long time. Dave King's also a Liverpool fan as well as a Rangers fan, and you can often see him down in a hospitality box down in Anfield when he's over here in the UK. So they've got a lot to talk about, put it that way. And Dave's been pretty firm on there being underlying issues. And with him saying unfinished business, to me, Derek, that again reinforces and underlines the fact that there was maybe more to Gerrard's departure than was revealed at the time, quite a lot more, and that he himself thinks that down the line a return to Rangers is something that he would like to pursue. I'm just not sure now's the time.
Yeah, he's batting in his corner, isn't he, Dave King, on Steven Gerrard, which is he's well within his rights to do. Lots of rumours and lots of speculation, of course, with regards to not only who the new boss is going to be, but coaching staff as well. You touched on there, if Gerrard came, it would be a hard sell bringing Michael Beale back to the club. When the news first broke about Ancelotti, Spanish publications were already stating who he'd be bringing in as his coaching team. Francisco Mauri, I think, the set-piece coach at Real Madrid. I've seen rumours, and many people have messaged me as well. And it's a guy we spoke about on shows as well, because he is looking for work. Willie with the point says that having worked with Big Dunk, rumours are he's coming with him. Thoughts on this? No idea on that, but I know you've been reading his book on holiday, Jonny. I'm actually listening to his book in audio style. I think I'm on chapter 6 or 7. Absolutely brilliant listen, cracking read if you've got the book as well. I very much recommend it. I would be all over this. I would be all over Big Dunk returning in some sort of capacity. Whether he would fancy it or not remains to be seen. But would you be happy with that?
I mean, it's not ideal given the way he said that he's never looked at a Rangers result since the moment he left, because he was so peeved about leaving the way he did. He's pretty honest and open about almost everything in the book, which is one of the best things about it. He doesn't hold back on almost anything. And it's clear that, Everton became his club. He left Rangers in difficult circumstances. Anyone trying to usurp Mark Hateley and Ali McCoist at that time was going to find it difficult. Hateley in particular was coming towards the end of his career, but was just didn't seem to really diminish an awful lot with age. And I think Duncan came in and actually knew that Mark Hateley was a better player, and that's kind of obvious.
Yeah, Hateley spoke about that as well. He felt that he was brought in too early, Duncan, at the time. Yeah,
because you spoke to Hateley, obviously, when you did the event down in London, didn't you? Yeah, I mean, the book's terrific. It's Henry Winter, who's someone I've been fortunate enough to do a little bit of work with in the past. Really, really top operator, and he sat down and spoken to Duncan in detail and really, really captured his personality brilliantly. And I'm sure everyone's seen the little clips of Dunk all over social media talking about battering burglars or whatever his many stories are. But you know, I think there's something about Duncan Ferguson. I've always felt that he's got a presence. He talks well about the game. He did a great sit-down chat with a couple of ex-pros that didn't get the same level of interest as some of his other ones. You know, his one with Gary Lineker seemed to go everywhere. The overlap one just went viral, didn't it, in so many ways, so many elements from it. But he was talking about the game in a bit more detail when he was talking to these former professionals. And there was some stuff when he was talking about the game he was really, really, really interested on. And he talked about it in a detailed way. He was talking about how playing up against a defender, what he liked and what he didn't like, and how he liked to go up against big guys. And he didn't like playing against the wee guys like, say, a Cannavaro, for example, who would be able to nip in front of him and whatnot. But if it was a physical fight, he'd love to go up against a big, solid centre-half and take him on.
Yeah.
And he was describing how that if he felt contact, then that defender was dead. That's how he described it. If he felt contact, he was able to completely control the situation because of his power and his physicality. The contact from the defender told him where that player was, and he was so strong he was just able to maneuver that defender. It was when he didn't know where they were that was the problem. When he knew where they were, he was able to isolate them and they were gone. And he said he just didn't lose those duels. And there was lots of little nuggets like that you could pass on to a young centre forward and how you can manoeuvre space and manipulate defenders and the dark arts which he was so good at.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a tendency to think of Duncan as a sort of big daft guy and, you know, a sort of big daft terrifying guy. But I think there's more to him than that. I've got a friend who is involved in the SFA coaching courses. And he told me that Duncan Ferguson was the single most impressive candidate that he's ever seen on a pro license, in the whole time he was doing it. He was doing a module within the course.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I'm not talking about coaching, but he was brought in to do a specific module on a specific aspect of the course. And he was extremely impressed by Duncan, by his attitude, by his aptitude, by his diligence. And he's like, you know, people don't understand the real Duncan Ferguson. They don't know the real Duncan Ferguson. And there's more to it. So listen, if he comes along, I think there's more substance to him than people know. But whether or not that happens or not, Derek, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few comments coming in. Blue Nose John, always a welcome contributor to the show. He says, I love all the Rangers review contributors, but Derek and Jonny are my two favourites. So they're nice words from me. Thank you. Yeah. This is a point, an interesting one, because he scored a good goal last night. CP9 says, imagine Cyril under Big Dunk's guidance. He's banging form, Big Cyril Dessers, or Des Air is
Des Air, yeah.
Yeah, was calling them last night.
I knew that would upset the commentator in you, Derek. As soon as I heard that, I thought, he'll be bristling.
Yeah, we can't have that. Never done his homework, whoever that was. But you scored the opening goal. It was down at Brentford. Nigeria beat Ghana by 2-1, well taken strike. And then spoke afterwards, says it's his dream to win an international tournament with the Super Eagles. But good to see him back in the team. It's been a long time since he's been called up to the Nigerian setup and playing, and looks in good fettle. Jonny, we've talked about Dessers on many shows before about a big summer ahead for him, whether he's a Rangers player next season or not. But those sort of goals on the international front will do him no harm at all. Will do Rangers no harm at all if we're looking to move him on. Yeah,
well, first of all, I thought it was a brilliant goal, Derek. Great touch. He's not expecting that ball to come past the defender. You're expecting the defender to clear that. Chest controls it brilliantly. One touch, bang. And that's what you want to see from Cyril Dessers. And that's what can be infuriating with him, because sometimes it's not one touch, bang. Sometimes it's one touch, two touch, three touch, miss.
Yeah.
But you've got to give him credit for the number of goals he scored this season. You just absolutely have to. I've been consistent on here. The goals don't change my mind. I would sell Cyril Dessers as soon as you get the opportunity. I don't think he's the right man to be number 9 for Rangers. I think because of his age, he can get, and because of his goal scoring record, you can get money in for him in the summer and try and invest that somewhere else. And I just think he's too mercurial. He's too up and down. You never know what you're going to get. You need consistency at a club like Rangers, consistency of performance. But Derek, you know what? I wouldn't be upset if he remains, if he's part of the squad. I think he's a useful player to have. It's just whether you think cost-benefit analysis-wise, you're better off having the money or you're better off having him as part of the squad further down.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, of course, as well as the managerial search, the takeover, we seem to be reaching the end game with that, Jonny, edging ever closer. We touched on it, I think, when it was on with Chris, I think it was. Someone asked, we're expecting a sort of big razzmatazz announcement, maybe a press conference, who will likely be speaking at that as well. But that, you'd imagine, will be within a matter of days at this point. I mean, June was, Dave King was saying we expected it to be confirmed, sort of ratified the beginning of June. We're now reaching at that point. Quite exciting for the Rangers supporters, I'd imagine, with the prospect of this taking place and what could unfold over the summer.
Yeah, really exciting, Derek. As you say, we're absolutely in the end game now. Really just waiting on the knock to tell us that it's happening. We're waiting on the final confirmation. This is it's a done deal by any standards. So we're just waiting to hear when it's happening. We know the WhatsApp rumours are doing the rounds. So I just think it's a case of keeping your eyes peeled on your socials, because it's there or thereabouts. And I think it's massively, massively significant for both Rangers and Scottish football. It's massively needed because I think the term Dave King used is investor fatigue. I think that's absolutely right. I think you've got to thank, from a Rangers point of view, those investors for what they've put into the club in terms of their financial resources and their efforts. But I think they'd gone as far as they could. And what you have here is an injection of not just cash, not just capital, but I think intellectual invigoration. That sense of energy, purpose, strategy. And I think you're already seeing with the appointment of a sporting director that this is going to be a modern club going forward, that Rangers is going to be run hopefully in a way that I think will deliver Scottish football a much better product over the years, because Scottish football is an environment, it's symbiotic, we all live in it. Every club is linked to other clubs. I know what we're talking about here is the importance of Rangers, but this league cannot afford to have Celtic 4 in a row after 9 in a row with one season where Rangers are able to do something. I mean, was it 13 out of 14 that Celtic have won? That's terrible for the country. It's obviously terrible for Rangers. That goes without saying.
It's damning on that board as well.
Yeah, well, there's lots of factors for it, but there's no doubt in my mind, Derek, this had to happen.
Yes,
and it had to happen because there needed to be an injection of ideas. And what I think what you're saying now is hopefully we will see a reinvigorated, rejuvenated Rangers that is able to rebuild towards making Scottish football back to what it can be at the very, very earliest stage. Because this has been a very, very poor period. And from a Rangers point of view, you will look at the expertise that the 49ers bring to the table. You will look at the capital they will bring to the table. You'll look at their history and experience of, I think, developing stadiums, which to me is the number one thing that this organisation must push forward, is Ibrox expansion, Ibrox regeneration, because you don't have to be a business expert, you don't have to be a business journalist to look at the fact that there's 15,000 and odd people on the waiting list, maybe more. I can't remember exactly the number off the top of my head. But they want season tickets and they can't get them because the ground is not big enough.
Yep.
So you're leaving millions and millions and millions of pounds on the table every single year that could be brought into the club. And I don't think the Americans are going to be blind to that. I don't think they're going to be blind to that at all, Derek. Leeds United, what are they doing? Increasing the stadium. 49ers, what did they do? Built a brand new, spanking, all mod cons stadium, I think 2014. So listen, there's lots still going on. I think there was a story yesterday about works being done to kind of fix some of the issues in the Copeland. Yeah. And I think that's important, obviously. But the bigger picture, I think, has to be looking at Ibrox.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, if they can knock down the 3 stands, leave the main stand there and sort of build upwards again, then I think I'd be all for that. It would be quite something. It would
back to Hampden. You heard it here first.
Well, they would have to go back to Hampden. There's no other place to go. Murrayfield might be on the agenda again, but I'd imagine Hampden would be the most likely scenario. But it is what it is. If it means Rangers get a brand spanking new ground, then I'm all for it. But like you say, Jonny, they need to. Celtic, of course, with the bigger stadium, have an advantage over Rangers every single season, so they're going to have to try and make that up somehow. But
there's that element to it, Derek. They've got a bigger stadium, and the bigger worry, I think, from that point of view is Celtic have got a very old main stand now. A very kind of small and old main stand compared to the rest of the stadium.
Isn't it?
And they've got whatever many millions in the bank. And you wonder if they are storing and hoarding those millions in the bank to rip down that old main stand and put a new one in there that would take them up to however many thousand more. If you start getting to a 20,000 or a 20,000 gap between the two stadiums, that is a huge gap. 10,000 is a huge gap, but if they were to do that, then the gap would be absolutely massive. And simply, you can't afford to allow your rivals to steal that big a march. People look back at the Murray era and all the things that he did wrong, not looking at stadium expansion in a more profound way. I think is one of the bigger ones. I know that obviously under Murray they put on the club deck and they filled in the corners and things like that, but I think there should have been ambition to do even more than that at the time, and especially when Celtic went to 60k and Rangers were sitting on 50k. And to me, it's the core thing here. I know everyone will say, no, it's not the core thing. The pitch, the team on the pitch is the core thing. But I think if you're talking about these two gigantic football clubs batting against each other, you can't allow one to have such a big advantage in terms of the revenue they're able to bring in, especially in this age of financial fair play now, FSR, isn't it? So that to me is absolutely massive.
Yep. Alan says those screens are an eyesore now. I would get rid of the screens as well. Yeah, absolutely. If they can do that, somehow manage to stick them up and sort of hanging off the edge. Ramon and the Copeland that you see many stadiums have. That's what I would do personally. But yeah, there's so much you can do. Of course, I'd leave the main stand as it is. If you can just maybe upgrade certain parts of it. I think the press gantry could be doing with a bit of upgrading.
Oh yeah, that's the first priority. Make sure the press have got a better. That's the most Derek thing
ever. But listen, they'll be coming in with open eyes, and I'm sure they've got plans afoot to improve not only Ibrox, but I imagine the training centre as well, and all in between. But yeah, as Jonny said there, folks, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, to the website. Keep your eyes peeled on the social media channels as well. When we hear of anything, you will be the first to know. So yeah, very exciting. Hopefully a few days coming up for the club. Right. We'll wrap up there for now. A big thank you to Jonny for coming back on. That was good. And yeah, any plans this weekend, Jonny? Watching the Champions League final?
Yeah, just the Champions League final, mate. Very, very quiet. I've got no money left after that holiday, so it'll be a very, very quiet Champions League final with, if I'm lucky, a couple of cans.
Yeah, good stuff. Excellent. Well, enjoy your weekend, folks, whatever you are doing. Chris is in the hot seat tomorrow. Him and Stevie will be on at 9:30 for your viewing pleasure. So, you'll be...
Are you off to Del Boy?
It's a little anniversary trip away, Jonny.
Wait a minute, let me guess. The North Pole.
No, far more exotic. It's actually just about half an hour away from me. But we're actually in a little pub that has rooms above it, and it's across from where the Umbro brothers were born and started Umbro way back in the day. So, bit of nostalgia there.
What a romantic you are.
It was the wife's idea. She loves it over there. We've been there before, so don't blame me for that. But
it's only half an hour from where you live.
Yeah, it's called Moberly. I don't know if any of you guys have been down this neck of the woods before, but it's a lovely part of the world. I'll send pictures, Jonny. I think they do a sort of...
Get your photos on Twitter. Get pictures of your foods, pictures of the area. I always love to live vicariously through other people when they're having a good time. Gives me ideas for my own trips. I've just booked a wee 4-day jaunt to Sorrento in October, so I'm looking forward to
fantastic. I think that's where Joshua has been.
Exactly. I was getting so jealous of Josh being in Sorrento that I've decided that bugger it, I'm going to go back there and have 4 days in October. So
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, class. I'm actually going to the Faroe Islands, so we are getting a little a chilly jaunt away in August time. So very much looking forward to that. But anyway, we digress. Enjoy your holidays wherever you're going, folks. I'll be back on Monday morning, unless something breaks over the weekend, and we'll do a bit of an emergency briefing, no doubt. But enjoy the show tomorrow, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.